Well, hello, trauma rock stars. I'm so excited for you to meet Jim Marshall. He's a polymathic intellectual, but he's so much more than that. He worked as a mathematician and engineer for many, many years, specifically a human development engineer, and he's an expert in 20 subjects. And if you were ever wondering and wanted to know who you are, he actually wrote a book that he worked on for 25 years that I cannot wait for you to learn about. Jim, thank you so much for being on this podcast. I'm so honored to have you. And please go ahead and just tell the world about yourself.
Okay. Hi, Tracy. Well, the first thing I should say to give context to the discussion is that I am the discoverer of hitherto unknown natural phenomena, which greatly aid in the understanding of people, from which I crafted a revolutionary practical philosophic system called Septemics and published it in the book, Septemics Hierarchies of Human Phenomena.
It's phenomenal. I when we were talking the last time, and you were really diving deep into it, which we will do. I was blown away, to be honest. I thought about I was so looking forward to this because I can't wait. And I mean, you were telling me how you just figured all this out and you're sharing it with the world and you live your life so peacefully. You have no worries in life. And it's just really it could bring this very peaceful calm out in people. And how your life goes so smooth. You said you don't have any drama. You understand people. There's a downside and upside to that too. But explain how you started with this book because I know didn't you tell me you started in 1985 originally?
No, but I'll be happy to answer your question anyway. But just to correct one thing you said, there's no downside here.
Okay.
Absolutely not. It's
Okay.
all upside.
Okay.
That's why I published the book. So to answer your question about where this came from, how this started, it really started when I was accepted into engineering school at the age of 16.
Hmm.
Now, of course, I thought at the time, as did all the other students, that I was going to be engineering physical things like airfoils and motors and electrons and such. But by the time I had my bachelor's degree, a lot had happened, and I by then knew that I wanted to engineer the human psyche because it's the area of greatest unknown, of greatest mystery, and more importantly, it is the area in which we as a race are failing miserably. 95% of the problems in industrialized society are because people don't understand people, don't understand the spouse, don't understand the child, don't understand the parent, don't understand the boss, et cetera, et cetera. Look at what's going on in Minneapolis. You know why that's all happening? They don't understand one another.
Hmm.
So I look at that. I'm not upset. I understand exactly what's going on. So uh, I had a long career as a human development engineer where I worked one on one with thousands of clients for to help each client attain whatever he personally wanted to attain. And it was usually something along the lines of uh, equanimity, responsibility, enlightenment, improved rationality, things like that. But a lot of things enter into that, as I'm sure you know. And I learned how to handle it all. Now, all of my clients improved as a result of our work together,
Hmm.
which is what I expected. But incidentally, I started to notice that I could predict the outcome of the session. I'm talking about many, many decades ago. I would look at this and I'd say, okay, I know where this is going. And it would go exactly there. That told me that there's something predictable underlying this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do that. So what happened was I never told that to anyone until after the book was published, but I made notes.
Hmm.
And as the decades rolled by, it became obvious to me that the client would be at a specific level on a specific scale that I had previously observed and recorded. And as a result of our interaction, he would go up to the next level on that scale. Now, that happened many thousands of times. I don't know how many, maybe 8,000 times, something like that, over a 40-year period. And you have to realize every time it happened, it verified my hypothesis because the clients knew absolutely nothing about how I was doing what I was doing. They don't know why I asked them X or asked them Y. They don't know anything about biofeedback. I had them on biofeedback right from the very beginning. And every time you think a thought, the electromagnetic field around your body changes. And if you know how to read the biofeedback, you know what the thought is. Not with specificity, but as to the quality of the thought.
Hmm.
For example, if somebody was keeping a secret from me, I knew it. And I would ask them
By body language or
from the biofeedback.
okay.
It's an electromagnetic phenomenon.
Okay.
You see, the brain is merely an interface. It's a neurological interface with the mind. The mind is a you might say it's an electromagnetic field uh, matrix. So it is inherently electromagnetic. In other words, it's a thing of light. And the being puts things into it that have meaning. This is what we call thinking. So every time the person would think something, the field would change and I would record it. So this led me to discover septemics in the following way. Let's say you have a guy who, normal guy, has trouble keeping a job, right? So he says, I'm going to go into therapy and see if I can get some help. And he goes to some very nice, intelligent psychologist. And he talks to this man for an hour a day, or usually it's about 50 minutes a day for a year. Okay.
Hmm.
Obviously, that would cost many thousands of dollars. And at the end of the year, he would say something, hopefully, he would say something like, Doc, I'm doing better with this. I think I can handle this now. See? And he goes off and he does better with his work. I could do that in maybe 20 or 30 minutes.
I was going to ask you, did you discover you can figure out the outcome literally in your first time meeting with your clients?
Well, not the first time meeting. The client would come to me, there was some initial interaction, can you help me with this or with that? And an unbelievably vast array of possibilities.
Hmm.
I'm afraid of spiders, whatever it is, doesn't matter. And whatever it is, if it was in the nature of what I did, I said, sure, I can help you. Now, the next thing I did is I set up an interview, a long interview. The interview is free. And I would ask the guy lots of obvious questions like how to get along with your wife, how to get along with your mother, how to get along with your brother-in-law, blah, blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah, blah. You could think of thousands and thousands, right?
Yeah.
And but he was on biofeedback during that. Right from the very beginning, he was hooked up to the meter. And I was seeing these thought patterns in the electromagnetic field.
Hmm.
See? So, but before we ever got to the first session, I already had much electromagnetic feedback about him. I knew that his brother in law was a big thing in his subconscious. How to get along with your brother in law? Boom! Big reaction. I write it down. See? So then we get into the session and I say, tell me about your brother in law. Boom! Same reaction. Not just another big reaction, the same reaction. There's an electromagnetic standing wave in this guy's mind that has the label brother-in-law on it. And we would go into it. And as he's talking, I'm seeing more phenomena and I'm noting them. See? So I could pick things apart. And so I would know what question to ask.
You could dig deeper.
But I could do it. It was not random. In
Right.
in other words, I had a connection to this guy's subconscious. And so I would see a certain reaction. And so that would tell me something. And I would ask him about that. Not about the media reaction, but about the phenomenon that it reflected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he would usually say, yeah, or well, how did you know? Uh, and then we'd get into it, and I would be able to guide that guy right down into subconscious and find whatever that was and delete it from his mind. That electromagnetic standing wave no longer existed. It was deleted. And when that happened, or actually as was happening, or sometimes even before it was happening, the guy would start to have realizations. See, he'd say, you know, I think I'm starting to understand my brother-in-law now. Oh, really? Tell me about that. See, and he might have a concatenation of realizations. And a lot of it might be something that he never imagined.
That was my question.
It's like he didn't have any idea what this was. He said, I can realize now that somehow in my mind, I connect my brother-in-law with Darth Vader. Oh,
Right.
really?
Right.
Tell me about that, see? And that could lead to all kinds of places. But
Mm-hmm.
you can realize none of this was coming from me. All I did was ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
I never asked the question unless I had electromagnetic data indicating that that was the question to ask. There was no asking at random.
When you were referring to the magnetic fields, is it literally a machine?
Yeah.
So is it kind of like a telegraph machine or that you
Well,
hook up or that picks
well,
up?
actually, what I'm actually measuring, if you want to get into the technical aspect of it, is what they call galvanic skin response,
Okay.
which is the changes in the resistance in your body as you think thoughts. Sometimes when you think a thought, the resistance in your body goes up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it goes down. Sometimes it fluctuates.
Mm-hmm.
When it fluctuates, there is a variety of different ways that it could fluctuate. And those have meanings to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I would know. So here's the bottom line. If this guy had gone to a good psychotherapist, he might have figured this out in a year or two.
Yeah,
Comes to me, one session, we're done. Okay. So
it's
what I'm telling
incredible.
you, this is over a 40-year period of experience.
Right.
I
Right.
was doing this orders of magnitude faster than mainstream therapy. I'm not talking about 10 times faster. I'm talking about 100 times faster or 1,000 times faster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as the guy went forward, working more and more with me, the rapidity improved. In other words, it got faster and faster at an exponential rate. So in the beginning, it might take 20 minutes for the guy to figure out that why he didn't get along with Gertrude,
Mm-hmm.
right? A year or two later, 3 minutes, done. And that's actually discussed in my book. There's an actual field scale that manifests that, how that works
Right.
in the mind. It's not an arithmetic progression, it's a geometric progression. So anyway, uh, by 1995, I had simply observed and recorded about 32 scales. There's no theory of septemics. I wasn't theorizing anything. I was just observing things and writing them down, which is what any engineer would do. He observes something relevant, he writes it down,
Mm-hmm.
in a concise way. And so the other thing you have to realize is that I would observe this phenomenon in a session. Oh, this guy's at this level. And as a result of our work, he went up to this level. He's now manifesting this level. See, it's different. It's different behavior or
Mm-hmm.
different thought pattern. It's qualitatively, but then the session would end and I'd go shopping. I'd go to Walmart and I'd see two people there talking and I'd see exactly the same thing. Or I would meet somebody, at a cocktail party and that person would talk and I would see exactly the same phenomenon. I hadn't told it to anybody. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't know who I was. They didn't know what my background was. It was there. Okay. So after I would sort of figure it out in the session, well, I would go out into the real world and it would just be continually verified. And you have to realize that every time this pattern occurred, it was something that I recorded. And it was very reliable scientific information because there could not possibly have been any placebo effect because I wasn't telling you anything.
Yeah.
Even if this rarely happened, but even if the guy asked me directly, I would not answer the question.
Okay.
But go talk going over his girlfriend. This is a lot of, Surus and Ajita and everything. You think I should stay with this woman? I'd say, well, what do you think? See, I had an opinion, but I would never share it with anyone. Anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy would figure it out himself. And that pattern of improvement led me to find these septemic scales. Just
Mm-hmm.
wrote it down. So by 95, I had about 32 scales. It varied in length between 3 and 7. And the reason it's between 3 and 7 is if it wasn't 3, I don't consider it a scale. Okay, 2 things, that's not a scale. It's got to be at least 3.
Okay.
So around that same time, I was working with a difficult case. And there was one scale that I had, which is a 6-level scale, which by then I absolutely knew axiomatically was correct because I had been using it for decades on people, all kinds of people, okay, without people having any knowledge at all of what I was thinking.
Right.
So I tried to assess this client on this scale. In other words, where is this client on this scale? Because when you spot the person's level, you have an insight.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get it. I thought, what's going on here? Why am I not finding this person on this scale? Then I realized, wait a minute. This scale has a 7th level. That's what I never saw that manifestation before.
Okay.
I had never witnessed it. And there's a specific technical reason for that, which I could explain if you want.
Yes, for sure.
But but as soon as I saw what the person's level was, that it was on the scale, a 7th level, I immediately understood the client retroactively and going into the future perfectly, just like that, in a second, because I found this level. That's what this person is manifesting. And that explains A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So then I knew when I found the level where to insert it. That was not a question. It was obvious where to insert it. And when I inserted it into the scale, making a 6-level scale into a 7-level scale, at that moment, it went from being a line, which is what a scale is, to a plane, meaning a whole body of data. It went from being one-dimensional to two-dimensional. And I all of a sudden, without having sought it, had all of these interacting, interlocking, intersecting mathematical data that reinforced one another in this scale. So you see, this datum explains this, and this interlocks with that, and therefore this has to be that way. So, in other words, when you get into studying mathematics, it's inarguable.
Hmm.
Okay, if you want to argue that the formula for the volume of a sphere is wrong, good luck.
Yeah, because it's just fact and it's a given.
Right. Once you understand it, you understand geometry, solid geometry in particular, that's what that is. You can see, oh, yeah, it's beautiful. I got it. Never forget it. And that's what math is about. It's like realizations,
Hmm.
it's purely conceptual. So that's what happened here. Now I looked at this, I said, whoa, I found something here. Whatever the hell this is, it has to be natural law because it's got mathematics embedded in it. And anything that has mathematics embedded in it is natural law, like
Hmm.
the Fibonacci sequence or Newton's three laws of motion. These things are inherently mathematical. I said, whoa, you got to realize I took 26 semesters of math and loved every minute of it,
Okay.
right? So I think in math.
Yeah.
It's it's not work for me. It's just how my mind works. Now, that's not unusual for people in the STEM subjects. Everybody who's in science, engineering, mathematics, we're all like that.
Hmm.
The difference is that I was working with human phenomena.
Hmm.
I wasn't working with chemicals or civil engineering or
Hmm.
motors or anything. I was working with the human psyche.
Right.
So the next thing was, I said, wait a minute. I wonder how many of these other scales that I have here are also seven level scales that hadn't been developed all the way. That was the first time I had that idea. Because you have to realize I wasn't developing anything.
Hmm.
I was just helping my clients and making notes.
Hmm.
So then I thought, wait, let me look at this. And I studied all these other scales. And because I was asking the right question, which is very much an engineering phenomenon,
Hmm.
that engineers, we know we have to ask the right question or we get nowhere. And that's the difference between Einstein finding the theory of relativity when nobody else ever did. You know why? He asked the right question.
Hmm.
Same thing with Newton's three laws of motion. He asked the right question. How come nobody else asked that question before? That we don't know. But we
Yeah.
do know that he asked the question and he got the answer. And that is what goes on in STEM subjects. So,
When you were, oh, sorry.
well,
No, I was going to say when you're seeing your clients and even before you discovered the seventh level, can people have more than one level in the scale?
let me
Like,
tell
could
you
they
this.
be a three and a
Every,
seven? You know what I mean?
no, let me explain this.
Okay.
Every person is at some level on every scale. He's
Mm-hmm.
at a specific level. Now, in some cases, what I call a specific scale, it has contexts. Meaning, let's say you take the scale of motivation and say, well, what's my mother's motivation toward me? That's one context. What's my father's motivation toward me? It's a different context. See, he is probably going to be at a different level from your mother. The
Mm-hmm.
chances are 7 to 1 that he's going to be at a different level.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some skills that are general skills that don't work like that. You find it, you're done. The context has nothing to do with it. And that's
Gotcha.
explained. Most of those skills are general skills. Those have enormous impact. For example, the scale of basic purpose. That's a general scale. When you find your level on that scale, you're never the same again. Never. Unless maybe something happened. Maybe if you die or if they give you electric shock or, something that damages your memory. But a normal circumstance, you're never going to be the same again because you
Mm-hmm.
found your purpose. You say, I see what I'm about. I'm about this, this, and this. And you throw out the other six. You say, that's not for me. That's for
Mm-hmm.
them. Okay, this guy wants to do that. That's his thing. I don't care. It's got nothing to do with me. This
Mm-hmm.
is wrong. And you'll have a concatenation of insights that could go on for days or weeks. That explains why I dropped out of engineering too. That explains why I broke up with Joe when I was 17. See? All
Mm-hmm.
based on an insight, because you're understanding yourself in a deep way. So, after I studied all the other scales, what happened is in a short period of time, each scale went to 7 levels. And when it did, it manifested mathematically.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, whoa, I think I found something here because I now have 32 7 level scales, each one delineating a different aspect of human phenomena, all of which are inherently mathematical. And having gone to school for 28 years, I just said, I never saw anything like this. And this is probably just something new I discovered. So then I thought, my next thought was, wait a minute, I could go from helping people by the hundreds, which is what I had been doing as
Mm-hmm.
human development, to helping them by the millions if
Mm-hmm.
I put this in a book and get it out so people can have it and use it.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is natural law. When you look at it, you get it. This is not obscure. There's a lot of stuff out there that's hard to get. You try to remember, what is this guy talking about? And especially when you get into human phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some stuff that's valid, but it's not easy to get.
Right.
This you get, and you get it because it's natural law. So I then thought, I'm going to have to write a book in order to share this with people. So
Mm-hmm.
the first draft was finished in December of 95, and I immediately sent it in a transcript form to colleagues of mine, each of whom had graduate degrees in a variety of subjects.
Okay.
And they all responded very positively. They had differing responses, but distinctly positive responses that told me that this was exactly what I thought it was, which is a new subject that people would get.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you, it's been 30 years since that first version was written. And in that 30 years, I've been working with people and sharing this with people and counseling. Nobody has ever said anything like, I don't get this. This doesn't make any sense, or anything like that. Nobody has ever said that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what happens when a person first contacts this? Right? Guy goes into a bookstore. He sees this book, says Septemics. What the hell is this? Takes it down to some random page, right? And he's going to see one of the 35 tables that express these 35 skills. And he's going to look at it and he's going to say something like, oh, this makes sense at first blush. You know why? You know why I said that? It's natural law.
Mm.
And
It
think about
can't
this.
not make sense.
The first time you saw the periodic table of elements, right? You were maybe 12 or 13 or 14 or something like that, right? And you go into maybe biology class and there it is on the wall, this big thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So at first blush, you see it's a little bit overwhelming because it's big and there's a lot of data, right? But as you start to look at it, especially if the teacher explains it, it really makes sense. Oh, this thing makes sense. This big thing. Hydrogen is one, helium is two, lithium is three, and it just goes down there horizontally and vertically. And the more you study it, the more sense it makes. So several people have said to me, what book is your book like? And I have to tell them in all candor, I don't think there's ever been a book like this before, at least on Earth. But every one of these 35 scales is expressed in what you could call a periodic table for the corresponding subject.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned the scale of basic purposes. There is a periodic table for the scale of basic purposes, or I should say just for basic purposes in general for humans. So when you look at this table, the more you look at it, especially if you understand all the words, you say, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. It's like this concatenation of insight where at some point you go, ah, now I'm starting to see this.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mathematics of it makes it inarguable.
Yeah.
See, like when you first contact the formula for the area of a circle, pi r squared, right? The first day, say, what's this thing pi? See? And then it says, well, this is just a number that we have, and it says approximately 3.14. Okay, well, what has that got to do with this? See? And then the teacher will explain, well, that's how you convert the radius into the area. Once you have the radius, you can compute the area because you just multiply it by 3.14. And if you want it to be more precise, it's 3.1416. And you get a more precise answer, right? So that's what this whole thing is like. Every one of these scales is just that same process.
Mm-hmm.
You look at it, say, oh, okay, I see. I see. And then at some point, the light bulb goes on over your head. Ah, now I see.
You can't dispute it.
So one of the things that happens with this is a person who's new to it, and new could mean not necessarily it's the first time he looked at the book, but he hasn't studied it all. And he's going, let's say he picks the scale of choice, and he gets down to level 5, and he says, wait a minute, this is exactly how my wife acts. Just like this. Just what it says in this paragraph. She does this and this and this and this and this and this. And he's saying she's at level 5. Oh, she's at level 5. That explains a lot. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying to tell her, don't do that. But now you understand her better.
Mm-hmm.
You will have insights. That explains why when I say A, she says B. And when I say X, she says Y. Because she's
Mm-hmm.
at this level. See? So let me give you now a simple way to understand this. I've been into gardening since I was a small boy.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot about flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, let's say you have a garden and you say, oh, you like flowers? Come and look at my garden. I say, okay. So I show up at Tracy's house and I go in the backyard and I say, oh, she has rhododendrons, tulips, roses, begonias, forget-me-nots, irises. Now, the reason I can analyze it that way is I know a lot about flowers.
Right.
Now, if you bring some 5-year-old girl into your yard, it could be the same day that I was there. She is going to see and smell exactly what I saw and smelled, right? But all she can say is, these are pretty and they smell nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's all she knows. That's what can you expect from a 5-year-old kid, right? This person
Right.
hasn't studied botany yet. So most adults are like that little girl as regards people.
Mm.
They don't know what they're looking at because they've never seen this data. After you see
Interesting.
data, then you know what you're looking at. So Friday night comes, a single guy says, I'm going to go out and meet a nice lady tonight. He puts on his best suit. He goes to a nice bar, right? And he sees this young lady and he buys her a drink, right? And now they're having the usual getting to know you conversation. Oh, what part of town do you live in? Right? What? And he's communicating with her, all very nice, And he's thinking to himself, boy, she's pretty and she smells nice. That's the same thing the little kid just said in your garden.
Yeah.
Exactly. He doesn't know much about her. She could have bipolar disorder. She could be a drug dealer. She could be hooked up with terrorists. Okay? He doesn't know. All he knows is she's pretty and she looks nice. That's enough. He gets her number.
Hmm.
This guy might be jumping off the deep end. He doesn't know.
Right.
Now, if he knew this material, he would, as she spoke, he would be able to spot some of these things. He'd be able to say, oh, she's at level 3 on the scale of basic purposes. I see. That tells me a lot. See,
So
because,
in that case, like once he understands the levels, he wouldn't need to ask additional questions to
well,
get.
it depends. Once you get it, you get it. I mean, if you get it right,
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. That's what I was asking. Yeah.
it's just like, let's say you're looking at some flowers from 50 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get closer, there's a point where you could say, oh, I can see those are chrysanthemums. And you get a little closer, oh, and then he's got roses too. And you get a little closer and says, oh, and he's got tulips.
Mm-hmm.
See, now you know what's in this guy's garden. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once you know the material, you look at the person and you can get an answer. Because I have to tell you, people tell you their levels.
Mm.
You, Tracy, have been telling people your levels for 20 or 30 or 40 years
Mm-hmm.
without knowing it. They tell you their levels. This is not subtle. And I'll give you a perfect example. When Obama ran for president, I had no idea who he was. I'd never heard of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
He had only been in the Senate for 2 years. I had heard his name because he was a senator, but that's all I knew, right?
Right.
So the people in Illinois knew who he was because they sent him to the Senate.
Right.
For those of us in the other 49 states, vast majority of us, we had no idea who this guy was.
Mm-hmm.
Who's this guy with this funny name running for president? Right? So I conducted a septemic analysis of him.
Mm.
It took weeks. And what it involved is, of course, he's running for president. He's going to be speaking, he's giving speeches, he's making appearances, he's giving interviews, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
tuned into all these things and I'm listening. See, took me a while. And then I realized where he was on the scale of basic purposes, which is the most important thing to know. Because the person's basic purpose is what the person is trying to do all the time, whether he's successful or not. Once I knew his basic purpose, that told me a lot about whether I wanted to vote for him or not. Not
Mm-hmm.
say what I figured out because that would be unethical. But it enlightened me. So he told me his level.
When you were doing that analysis on him, this is when he was running
Yeah,
for office. It's you said it took you a couple weeks to
yes.
do this full analysis. Did it take you a couple weeks because what you were watching and listening to, people weren't asking all the right questions?
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff they ask is superfluous,
Right.
you know, oh, I understand you have two daughters. So what are their names? I don't
Yeah.
know anything, you know.
Yeah.
But also you have to realize it's not like uh, this is back when you had to sort of find something and tune into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was like really, I don't think I even knew about the internet at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was just coming.
Yeah.
So now if I want to know something, brrr, I go right into it again. I know how to find things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So this guy went to this university. So I Googled the university. Oh, what's that university? What's it like? What type of university is this? See? Who teaches there? See? And you get data.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that back then. So it took me a while,
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh. He's going to be on Ted Koppel. Okay, tune in. Listen, see? And eventually I got up. I say, since that moment, there has never been a shred of doubt in my mind where he was on that.
Hmm. And then with somebody like President Trump, who's very well known, plus you have a lot more access to the internet, it must have been very quick for you to,
Let me tell you something. I'm from New York City.
yeah.
He
And
was
you're from New York
he was
City.
my neighbor
Right,
for decades.
right.
And you have to understand, Donald Trump, he was like the Prince of New York.
Hmm.
Before he ran for president, 99% of his press was positive.
Hmm.
And I knew about his family. My family was connected to his family since before
Hmm.
I was born.
Hmm.
So I knew a lot about the Trump company.
Right.
So I knew all about Donald Trump. Okay. I knew a lot more about him than I know about you before Septemics ever existed because he was in the newspapers every day.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you've read any of his books, but he was
of
doing things
course.
with the mayor and the governor. And
Hmm.
so now, I mean, I understand him, I'm pretty sure, better than Melania understands it.
Probably.
And I'm not denigrating her. I think she's a very intelligent woman. She speaks 5 languages fluently.
Yes.
She went to college, although she didn't graduate because she got this offer to make millions as a model. So,
Yeah.
but she's a smart woman,
Hmm.
but she doesn't have this material.
Yeah.
So let me tell you something. When I was a boy, I thought I was going to become a physicist.
Hmm.
When I got into prep school, I started learning about engineering and the difference. And I realized I'm not a scientist, I'm an engineer.
Mm.
Now, if you know engineers, if you've been around engineers, there is a distinct personality type for engineers. I don't know if you know that or not.
No.
To engineers, scientists are weirdos.
Okay.
I went through prep school with a guy who eventually went on to become a physicist,
Hmm.
which is exactly what I expected. He was a weird guy.
Hmm.
Everything about There's nothing about him that was normal.
Okay.
Never came to a dance. I never saw him with a girl. I'm not saying he was gay. I'm just saying he was a weird guy. You know, he was never in organized sports. I was more like an engineer. I played on the football team, I was on the baseball team, I played in
Hmm.
a rock band, I dated girls. That's like more like an engineer, not a scientist.
Yeah.
So I realized I was an engineer. Well, then they gave me an aptitude test. They give you the top 10 things that you're most apt to do.
Hmm.
Of the top four, three of them were three types of engineering.
Right.
I said, well, duh. I've already been accepted to engineering school. I guess I figured that out.
Hmm.
But all of this, we are getting human development through the mind of an engineer.
Hmm.
Let me tell you why this is significant. I told you that in 95, I sent out the first version of it and I got all this positive feedback.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is exactly what I thought, something that could really help people. I'm going to have to write a book. I spent the next 25 years working on the book.
Hmm.
And here's why. First, of course, I had to discover the phenomena, the septemic phenomena. And I pretty much told you how the grunt work on that was done in my sessions where I would see it and I'd write it.
Yes.
I would see it. For 40 years, I did this.
Yeah.
See it and write it down.
You had a lot of notes.
But you have to understand that they were not random notes. They were fitting together in patterns.
Hmm.
You see?
Hmm.
So I'd see, well, this guy's at this level. And then I worked with him, he went to this level. And then I kept working him and he went to this next level. That's the next level. Write it down. So the next thing was after I had the data, the raw data, meaning the scales, I had to use it to craft a workable philosophic system, which is why engineering is relevant. Because you have to understand in the world of engineering, opinions and beliefs are unwanted, unwelcome, and irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, if my son tells me his belief, oh, I'm going to listen to that. He's my son. See,
Right.
that's all
Of
engineering.
course. Yeah.
But in engineering, we don't care what your beliefs are.
Mm-hmm.
Because engineering is like this. We start with accepted facts, meaning proven facts, like the acceleration of gravity near the surface of the Earth is 9.8 meters per second per second. That is an established fact. That's what we call 1G. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that established fact is used as the basis for all kinds of things. So we start with these. That's what you learn in engineering school. You learn aerodynamics, materials, all this, and you're learning the facts, the facts, the facts. Okay. Electronics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you get the facts, like James Clerk Maxwell developed and gave to us the the equations for electromagnetics. He figured it out and he gave it to us. That is the whole progress of science.
Mm-hmm.
So those are factual. See, whether it's Le Chatelier's principle from chemistry or Ohm's law from electronics, it's factual.
Mm-hmm.
Then, then we take these facts and we make calculations.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes it from being just a kind of a fact into being something real. So we decide, you know, uh, let's say we're putting up a bridge. We have to determine how much weight this bridge has to be able to carry. And we can calculate that. But the number we get is not the number we use. We add a margin of error, like 10%.
Mm-hmm.
That is the number we use going forward in the next 5,000 calculations we make. It has to be able to support this weight. That's already something that was calculated and then built up by factors of error. So in the worst scenario, it's going to hold. You see?
Did
That,
you feel, oh, sorry, go ahead.
that's what I had to do with Septemics. I had to construct something that was going to work all the time for every person.
Yeah.
And I know I succeeded at that because I'm watching people get this for 30 years. They get it.
Yeah.
Then the next thing was the most time consuming aspect was expressing this in a way that would make sense to the average person.
Yes. That's what I was just going to ask you.
And I have to realize that in the world of science and engineering, that's not something that normally happens.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when Einstein revealed his theory of relativity,
Mm-hmm.
1905, and then the next one, 1915, he wasn't writing for the public. He was writing for physicists and engineers and mathematicians.
Mm-hmm.
That's who he was writing for. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not even engineers, certainly physicists and mathematicians.
And yeah.
So, as a physicist and as an engineer, I can study his calculations. He calculated this thing. He calculated it. That's just the way we would calculate anything else. He
Mm-hmm.
started with some data and he worked with it and he gets down to one place and says, wait a minute, E equals MC squared. Whoa, that's big. See, we know how he did it. He asked the right question. He did the calculations. He came down to something usable at the end, and that changed the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I had to do here. But he never attempted to explain it to Tracy or to Jim.
Right.
or to your brother-in-law. Okay? He was explaining it to Niels Bohr
Hmm.
or Robert Oppenheimer. They understood it because they were physicists and mathematicians. I had to make this comprehensible to the average reader of English.
Hmm.
So I went out of my way to write the book with as little mathematics as possible. So when you read it, you don't get the sense you're studying mathematics
Right.
uh, or even really science, because I mean,
Hmm.
it's like what you get is that you're studying yourself.
Hmm.
Oh, that's why I do that.
Hmm.
I'm at this level on this scale, just like he says, blah, 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 blah. That's where I am. See? So it's like you're holding up a mirror to yourself and looking and seeing your reflection of yourself, or you're holding up a lens to your wife and you're seeing her better. See? So,
Hmm.
so I had to make this comprehensible to the average reader of English.
Yeah.
And I know I succeeded at that because I've been watching people get this for 30 years.
Yeah.
They get it. You don't have to be a college graduate to understand this. And so this book was rewritten at least a half a dozen times.
I was going to say, did you feel like you were ever going to finish?
Well, let me put it this way. If you've ever written a book, there's always, for all writers, that thing of that you can go on forever,
Yeah.
making it better, making it longer, you know. But the point, that's not really the issue. The issue is, are
Yeah.
people going to get this?
Hmm.
Like, for example, The Sound and the Fury by, oh, I'm forgetting his name, the great Southern writer, one of the great novels in English, okay? That's very sophisticated, complex writing, okay? You have to be pretty smart and literate to read that book, okay?
Hmm.
Now, there has to be a point where he said, I'm going to publish this,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, by that point came because we have the book,
Hmm.
but there's always that issue. And I've been writing since I was a kid.
I
You
was
know,
going to say, did that come natural to you to
yes,
not write with that? You had to turn your math and science had take that off and, just have your
it was not
English.
hard for me. And I'll tell you why. I have been tutoring people since I was 14.
Okay.
What you do in tutoring is basically I cleaned up the messes made by mainstream education,
Hmm.
benefit of the student.
Hmm.
And I could go into a whole discussion of that,
Yeah.
discuss it a little bit in the book on the scale of scholarship, what's wrong with our system, why it doesn't work. But the long and short of it is, I learned over many decades how to do that.
Hmm.
Uh, I started tutoring algebra when I was 18. And I knew algebra then as well as my teachers knew it.
Hmm.
And so I learned, listen to the student, ask the student questions. And I learned that it's like detective work, figuring out, because I'll tell you something, the person never knows what he doesn't know. If you go to a guy and say, I really don't understand this, the only thing you know is it's not that.
Yeah.
It's something more fundamental.
Hmm.
So I would work backwards from there, from that point. A guy saying, yeah, I can't figure out how to factor polynomials. Okay, everybody in algebra knows how to factor polynomials. So I would say, okay, let's work back. What's the definition of a polynomial? What's the
Hmm.
definition of factor? Okay, show me your book. What were you studying before that? And I would find things prior to that or more fundamental, which is not really the same as prior, but more fundamental that he didn't understand and didn't know that he didn't understand.
Hmm.
He had a misconception. So by the time he got to factoring polynomials, he was lost. See? So I would sort of have to fix this up. And then eventually he'd say, oh, I see how to do this. This is
Mm-hmm.
easy. See? And that's what I did with my clients for 40 years.
Yeah.
Because guy comes into you, and you say, well, why are you here? I'm worried about my marriage. I'm afraid we're going to get a divorce. Right? That's a good reason to ask for help, right? Can you help me? Yes. If this guy says to me, I know what the problem is. It's this, this, and this. I know for a fact that's not what it is.
Right.
That's the only thing I know. It's something more fundamental, which either means earlier in time or underneath it. Underneath,
Mm-hmm.
like what is the definition of love? You want to see a blank stare, right? Or like working with physics students. What's an electron? Hamana, 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 like Jackie Gleason and the Honeymooners, you know? Let's clear this up. All right, let's look up the word electron. See? And you're going to find words there he didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
He may have thought he understood them. So now after a while, he says, oh, now I see what an electron is. Well, how the hell is he going to understand electricity or electronics if he doesn't know what an electron is?
Mm-hmm.
Can't be done. So now he goes forward and he says, oh, I'm seeing this is making sense to me. Thank you very
Mm-hmm.
much. Goodbye. So I sort of knew that process. And when I wrote the book, I wrote it backwards.
Okay.
So this is an 86,000 word book. I literally went through the book word by word. Is this the best word to express this? Is this the clearest way for you
Mm-hmm.
to understand this? Maybe there's an easier way to express this. So every time I rewrote it, that's what happened.
Okay.
Clearer and clearer and clearer. And, so I came to a point where I said, well, I'm not going to live forever. I'm publishing it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I said that is by then, people have been coming to me for years and years and saying,
Yeah.
wow, this is cool. I get it. This helped me with blah, 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 blah. So, okay, I published it. Now, like every other author in the world, I've had 1,000 things that occurred to me. Oh, I wish I put that in, or I said,
Right.
that's just that's part of the deal with being an author. You know,
Yeah.
like for example, I was a Latin scholar, and when I was 17, I was writing poetry in Latin for recreation.
Oh.
So, so I wrote this very long, very sophisticated poem, and I don't remember how it came up, but by accident, my Latin teacher got his hands on it. It wasn't that I brought it to him because I wasn't showing it off. I think I was showing it to my friends who also
Oh, okay.
in the lunchroom. And he came by and said, what are you guys looking at? And somebody said, here's Jim's poem. So he took it and he read it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I can get this published for you. Would you like it to be published? I said, no, because I was a dopey 17-year-old. What did I know?
Yeah.
If I knew what I knew now, I would have said, you can get this published for me. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know any better. I was just a kid.
Yeah.
So the point is, when I was writing that poem, at what point do you say, okay, this is the poem? You see? See, even when I
Mm-hmm.
was 17, I think it had 5 verses. And so there's a point where I say, okay, this fits, it rhymes, it says what I want to say. I'm done with this. See?
Mm-hmm.
So that happens.
So how many words did you get your book down to?
Oh, it's more than 86,000 words.
Oh, okay.
The point, the
But you were
point,
able to
but
just,
the point is that I maximize the writing for
Mm-hmm.
clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so people would get this who had never been to college or whatever. And I mean, in many cases, I didn't even know about that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily particularly bright people, but they get it.
Mm-hmm.
They get it. It's just like periodic table of elements. You don't really need to be brilliant to get it. You need to be brilliant to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Dmitri Mendeleev figured it out. He took 79 elements and he put them all in this ordered way where this is meaningful. Each period has characteristics. So you see, sodium and potassium are in the same period. They behave very similarly in the human body. Gives you know
Mm-hmm.
that. So you can actually get rid of sodium by ingesting potassium.
Mm-hmm.
The body puts it in there and the sodium goes. That's the periodic table. So I have 35 periodic tables, each of which corresponds to an area of human phenomena. Now, I say phenomena rather than behavior because a lot of this is much bigger than behavior.
Right.
This goes way beyond behavior. I have nothing against psychology. Psychology is a study of behavior. And it generally, in most cases, it means human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I've studied it. I understand it. I appreciate it. I use it. I have friends who are psychologists. All that is there. This is not that. This is very different. This is actual data that exists in the universe, which is what I mean by natural phenomena. So a good way to think about this is uh, what is the name of that sequence that we have? The Fibonacci sequence. If you take a sunflower, right, and you count the seeds one way, you get a Fibonacci number. And if you count them the other way, you get another Fibonacci number. Well, how does that work? It doesn't even have a brain. How does it know to put those numbers in there? Same thing with a pine cone. So Fibonacci looked at this and he said, I look around nature and I keep finding these numbers. What the hell are these numbers, right? Why these numbers? There has to be something underneath this. And he figured it out. He reverse engineered it. In other words, he asked the question, what formula would produce these numbers?
Mm-hmm.
And he figured it out and he gave it to us. And that's what we call the Fibonacci sequence. And each of the numbers is called a Fibonacci number.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I did. I looked at this data. I said, there's something to this data. Okay. What would make this work like this? And the more I looked at it, the more mathematics appeared.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now you have to realize each of the 35 scales is unique. You cannot learn anything about scale A from studying scale B. But what I should do now is tell you the names of the 35 scales so your viewers will know exactly what subject matter we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Human phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 35 scales and 24 of them are individual scales. These are the individual scales. The scale of basic purposes, the scale of personal influence, the scale of choice, the scale of permeation, the scale of thought, the scale of identity, the scale of evaluation, the scale of motivation, the scale of control, the scale of stopping, the scale of scholarship, the scale of literacy, the scale of human ability, the scale of memory, the scale of spiritual identity, the scale of mental deletion, the scale of aberration, the scale of physical fitness, the scale of justification, the scale of belief, the scale of equanimity, the scale of attack, the scale of conflict, and the scale of reaction. And these are the group scales: the scale of
Mm-hmm.
relationships, the scale of life spheres, the scale of government, the scale of civilization, the scale of survival, the scale of management, the scale of exchange, the scale of communication, the scale of allegiance, the scale of sexuality, and the scale of politics. Any one of these scales could dramatically help the reader. And I'll give you an example. I mentioned the scale of motivation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could take that scale. There's only 7 levels, which make it
Mm-hmm.
easy to work with. You're not selecting from 1,000 different things. You're selecting from 7.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the heavy lifting of working out the basic 7 human motivations in the sequence that they occur and that they appear and that they develop. So, excuse me, you could take that scale and you could ask yourself, what's my husband's motivation toward me? What's my sister's motivation toward me? What's my pastor's motivation toward me?
Mm.
And if you know the material and you know the person, you will get a correct answer. And when you get the answer, you'll have a realization. Oh, that's my pastor's motivation toward me. It
Mm.
explains why he does A, B, and C.
Interesting. With it's well, it sounds like everybody needs to read this. So to know who we are, especially our world leaders, because there's a lot going on right now. I mean, we need to get this in their hands.
There was always a lot going on.
Always, there
There's
always
always going to
has
be a lot
been.
going on.
Always, yeah,
And,
there
but
is.
but this changes your life.
Yeah, because you said this is a
Not exaggerating.
world-changing book, is what you told me. It's a
That is what
world-changing
people
book.
tell me.
Or yes, yes,
You may
yes.
have gathered by now. It's not obvious because I'm being interviewed, but I'm a very tight-lipped person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I generally keep my opinions to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't tell people what I think. Even if they ask me very often, I won't tell them what I think.
Right.
Okay? That's just who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Long time ago, that to cultivate relationships, you need to shut up and listen. Respect, respect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, if a guy comes to me and says, Donald Trump is the best president we've ever had, I'm not going to argue with that. Another guy comes to me and says, Donald Trump is a monster and a sociopath. I'm not going to argue with that. All right. I'm That's that person's thing.
Right.
You know, if he wants to tell me why, okay, I'll listen. But that's who I am. So
Mm-hmm.
all of the stuff I'm telling you is what people keep telling me.
Yeah.
So what's happened is there are a lot of people like yourself. They say, "Oh, this is interesting. I'm going to read this."
Yes.
And then I hear from them months later, and they say, "Jim, this changed my whole life. Everything is different. My marriage is different. My business is different. My emotions are different." Because this gives you 35 ways of analyzing. So,
Wow.
so I was talking about how you could take that one scale and you could assess,
Mm-hmm.
what is Joe's motivation toward me?
Mm-hmm.
If you get it right, you'll have a realization. Oh, his motivation is this. That explains why.
Mm.
See? Now, you could also reverse the vector and say, what's my motivation toward Mary? What's my motivation toward Alex? What's my motivation toward Fred? And every time you get it, you'll have a realization. Ah, that explains why I don't get along with Fred. I had this motivation. See?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's too late to do anything about it, but maybe it's not. Maybe you still know Fred.
Yeah.
But the point is, you could do this with all 35 scales.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at it another way, if you have someone in your life who's important, like your spouse, for example, you might ask, where is my spouse on the scale of basic purposes?
Mm-hmm.
Where is my spouse on the scale of personal influence?
Mm-hmm.
Where's my spouse on the scale of choice? Now, since you know this person well, if you know the material well, you're going to get it.
Mm.
Usually you'll get it pretty fast, right? Because your spouse has been telling you for years what his basic purpose is. You
Mm-hmm.
haven't been listening for it. Oh, yeah, he's talked about this thing. So now you see, that's his basic purpose. That
Mm-hmm.
explains all about him. And you'll have a concatenation of realizations.
I was going to say, it sounds like you could have 35 aha moments.
Right. 50 or 100 or
Or,
200.
yeah,
And it could go on for months.
right.
Months. That happens to me all the time. Like I figure out where somebody is on a certain scale, and 6 months, oh, yeah, that's why he did that.
Mm,
He's at this level on that scale. I never thought about that. See, and now you understand the person better.
yeah.
So this is really useful stuff.
Do you feel this is your purpose? Putting is it because it sounds like this is a gift to the world.
Let me put it to you this way. I was a very motivated person.
Mm-hmm.
I was a very studious person.
Mm-hmm.
I spent most of my life helping people, helping people, helping people, helping people. Even when I was a boy, I was helping people.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I was an altar boy.
Mm-hmm.
So for an 11-year-old boy who was very parochial, to me, that was my idea of helping.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I served mass and people came into the church and the church collected money.
Yeah.
I never got anything for that. Nobody even said thank you.
Right.
But I was doing a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that's obviously a long time ago. So as my life went forward and I studied more, I learned about psychology and theology and
Mm-hmm.
metaphysics and even all of these scientific things bled into that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you realize being a human development engineer, I'm helping this person using engineering principles, engineering philosophy, engineering tactics, engineering strategies, engineering devices, engineering calculations. That's what was going through my mind during the session. You see,
Yeah.
sometimes the guy is talking, I'm looking at the meter, saying, what's this? And then he tells me X is, okay, now I see what this is. See?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say, let me ask you this. Uh, who does your wife remind you of? The guy says, oh, I never thought about this. Reminds me of my mother.
Yeah.
See, I figured it out before he did,
Mm-hmm.
the electronics. And then I didn't tell him, I just asked him. See, that's an open-ended question.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the time, I knew what the answer to the question was going to be, most of the
Right.
time. And the further along I went, the more that was true.
Right.
But obviously, I have a poker face, and I would just do the process that we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, and I would really be making calculations as I was doing this. So, we're going on, can't keep a job, can't keep a job, can't keep a job. And his father keeps coming up. Well, my father said this, my father said that. And my father, I'm thinking, there's got to be something about father at sea in this. See?
Mm-hmm.
So I might ask him, well, what does your father think about this? And when I say father, the needle goes kaboom.
Yeah.
I hit a vein of gold.
Yeah.
See? He says, well, I don't know why he would ask me that, but he thinks this and this and this. I said, well, tell me about that, see? And this guy would wind up saying, now I see why I can't keep a job. It's because of my father's influence to me.
Mm-hmm.
He never would have figured that out on his own.
Do you still see clients?
No, and I'll tell you why. After I published the book,
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, what do I do now?
Right.
And I sort of got involved in promoting it. Uh, and then I started doing interviews. And after a while, I sort of figured out how this would work. I realized that the way this is going to work is for me to be interviewed by people on the internet.
Right.
figured that out.
Mm-hmm.
That's just putting up a book ad that says, Septemics will change your life. It's not going to work.
Right.
I don't know what it is. It's just another ad they go by. But by doing this, the people who are interested in this are the people who invite me.
Right.
And because, there are people who don't invite me, they're not interested.
Right.
There are people, I'm sure there are guys, they're only interested in drinking beer, watching sports, and chasing skirts. That's
Yeah.
that's their life. They don't care about this. They're not interested.
Right.
So you have to find somebody who's interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
Then the person asks, and I explain it. And then other people watch it,
Yes.
say, oh, I see what this guy's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go to this guy's website and see what it says.
I was just going to ask you if you can tell everybody how to find
Sure.
Septemics and
Sure. So I invite all of you viewers to my website, which is septemics.com,
mm-hmm.
S-E-P-T-E-M-I-C-S, where you can read what many users have said about it, what many journalists have written about it,
Mm-hmm.
what the reviews are. You can read sections of the book itself, and there's even a pre-recorded audio introduction to Septemics that you could play and listen to that
Yes.
explains it in 15 minutes.
And it's totally sucks you in.
Right.
It really does.
And let me tell you why it sucks you in. I already know that, but because I've been listening to
I know
people
you
tell
know
me
that.
this ability.
But
Why it
I'm
sucks you
just
in?
telling the listeners
I
it
think you
really
can figure
does.
this out. You know why it sucks you in? It's natural
It's
law.
natural.
So look, the father of physics is Isaac Newton,
Mm-hmm.
one of the great geniuses of all time.
Sir Isaac Newton.
Right. Okay. So this is a 25-year-old math and science student, right?
Mm-hmm.
He sees the apple fall from the tree. You know the story, right?
Yeah, of course.
Famous story. And he thinks, wait a minute, that's the same force that's holding the moon around the earth. Now, something clicked in his mind that he saw that it was the same thing.
Yep.
Okay, so gravity. Good. And so he went forward from that. And from that, he derived the three laws of motion,
Mm-hmm.
which are axiomatically true. Now, I can tell you in the world of science and engineering, and not so much in math, but in science and engineering, and even somewhat technology, the three laws of motion are like, they're so basic, it's almost like common sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like red means stop and green means go. Okay. At some point, somebody established that.
Right.
Right? Who established that? So there was had to be some guy who said, red means stop. Why didn't he say blue? Well, we could go into a whole discussion of that, and there are reasons for it psychologically, but it's established now.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's nothing to argue with there.
Right.
So that is what these skills are. There's nothing to argue with in there.
Yeah.
I spent 25 years perfecting this because believe me, I would not have presented it, A, if I didn't know it was correct, and B, if it weren't natural law. And the more you look at it, the more you study it from different angles and different directions, the more you will get that. And let me tell you what I mean. Pick any scale. You'll see that if you look at the table that expresses the scale, you can see that the scale is on the left, and then there's this whole panoply of data.
Mm-hmm.
And as you think about the data and you cross-reference these data, you have realizations. Like, for example, control and responsibility. Most
Mm-hmm.
people don't link control and responsibility. They are axiomatically linked. If you can't control something, it's because you haven't taken enough responsibility for it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can't take responsibility for it, but you still haven't taken responsibility for it.
Mm-hmm.
When you can take responsibility for it, you can control it. This is like a new concept. This is a
Yeah.
completely different slice
Mm-hmm.
of life. That one idea could change the guy's whole life. Wait a minute now. I have trouble controlling my wife. I must not be taking enough responsibility for her. I'm going to take more responsibility. And he starts finding ways to take more responsibility for her. And voila, he can control her better.
Mm-hmm.
Now you might say, well, control is a bad thing. Oh, really? When Alex Rodriguez hit a home run, you know what he was doing? He was controlling the baseball.
Mm-hmm.
When Obama gives a speech, he's a very good speaker. He's controlling his voice.
Mm-hmm.
There are other people who don't speak so well. They can't control their voice so well.
Right.
So just that's just one example of one scale, and there's 35 of these. So the
Right.
more you look into this, and the more you see the interlocking factors, you see that it cannot be any other way.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it has to be.
Yeah.
And it's just like studying relativity, studying the theory, which is something I've spent a lot of time on because
Mm-hmm.
it's lunatic. So the more I study relativity, meaning I listen to different physicists give lectures on it,
Mm-hmm.
presentations in it, the more I say, oh, yeah, now I look at it that way. Yeah, it just makes more sense and more sense and more. So I understand that on a very axiomatic level. See, I don't have to think about it
Mm-hmm.
because as I keep studying, I keep seeing these interlocking factors.
Yeah.
And that's what a good teacher does. A good teacher shows you how to bring in these other axes.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the dimension of the thing.
Right.
So I went out of my way in this book in writing it to show the varying dimensions.
And I think the readers will feel that. And just by your 15-minute uh, description you have on your website of it, it's very clear that
Right.
you, yeah, it's so, and it's just fascinating. I truly feel like this is a gift from you to the world. The world needs to read this. And I know when we were talking earlier, you were like, it'll become popular after I die. And I'm like, no, it can't. No, you're here with us now. You're a gift. And it has to be, now.
Yeah, the gift is not Jim. The gift is Septemics. But to answer your question from before is I did not know I was on this path to Septemics.
Of
I
course.
wasn't even looking for it.
Yeah.
And then after I started developing it, I just thought, oh, this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there's anybody else there nutty enough to appreciate this. And then I started realizing the depth of it.
Yeah.
And that when I saw these friends of mine, brilliant people, like one guy has a PhD in biochemistry, the other
Yeah.
guy has a master's from MIT in engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy is a literal rocket scientist. Okay, these are my friends, and they looked at this and said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I said,
You got all the
"People are
feedback
going
you
to get
needed.
this. I have to make." So, to answer your question, in retrospect, yes, this was my life's work.
Mm-hmm.
So now my mission is to get people to find out about it,
Yes.
which is why I'm talking to you.
Yep.
Because let me tell you, it was not clear at all to me when I started promoting the book that it would break down this way. But there are two groups regarding septemics. There's, of course, the largest group, which is people who have no idea what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a much smaller group of people who love it. I'm not saying they like it. They love it.
Right.
They love it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like one guy I know, he had me not only do an interview similar to this, he had me do a separate interview on each of the scales, each
Yeah. Wow.
individually.
Wow.
And he told me he carries this book around with him.
Yeah. That's incredible.
And so there are, I would find like, some guy would talk to me, thanks, Jim, was very nice. And then I'd find something he wrote online, it was like, how great it was. Oh, that's interesting. So I was kind of surprised, uh, because this is one of these things where, either you fall in love or you don't fall in love.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I'm a single guy and I've had a variety of girlfriends. And, sometimes the question comes up, how do you know I'm the right person? You know, what would you have to know? And I always say to them, if you're the right person, I will know.
Right. You just know
You
when
know.
yeah, you just know that you can't explain it.
And in fact, I usually say, we will know.
Yeah,
Because if you're the right person for me and I'm not the right person for you, we haven't accomplished anything.
of course.
So it's one of these things where this is so big that it exceeds the imagination of most readers.
Right.
You can't get how big this is.
Right.
And that is why I say most of the copies of this book will sell after I'm deceased, because it's not easy to get somebody to read a book of any kind. Have you
Hmm.
noticed that?
Yeah.
Then, of the people who do read books, most of them read fiction books. Well, this is nonfiction.
Right.
Of the nonfiction people,
I think that's changing.
okay, of the nonfiction people, 90% of them are in a niche.
Hmm.
Mathematicians read mathematics books, psychologists read psychology books,
Yeah.
theologians read theology books. I, being a polymath, which is the weirdo factor in this, read all that stuff.
Yep. And this is for everyone.
Right. So, because of my polymathic grasp of reality, all of these subjects in my mind are one thing.
Hmm.
And because of that, I was able to see this for what it is. I was
Hmm.
able to look at this big thing and say, wait a minute, this is big. This has math in it. This has psychology in it. This has theology in it. This has business in it.
Hmm.
This has economics in it, depending on what scale and what level. And
Yeah.
so uh, this is the saying that it's a life-changing book is sort of stating the obvious, because I've
Hmm.
seen people get this
Right.
for 30 years. But what I know beyond that, which is true, is that it is a world-changing book.
Yes. I wrote that down when you told me that because that's so profound and it's true.
Right. Just like Newton's three laws of motion changed the world. Because after that, he had to invent calculus.
Right.
And he wrote the Principia, okay, which I read when I was 17. I said, wow, this is beautiful.
Hmm.
Calculus. It's like a whole new way of thinking about math that he came up with. And without that, we wouldn't be able to use the three laws of motion.
Yeah, I mean, this is so groundbreaking to me. I just can't. I told you when we talked last time, I told you whose podcast you need to go on that would be all over this, Joe Rogan.
Right.
If anybody's listening to this, you need to get this man in touch with Joe Rogan because he would be like so blown away by
Right.
all of this. And I will reach out myself trying to get you on because I mean, you
I,
need to
I, you
be
know, I'm very familiar with Joe Rogan. He has a good
his
show.
audience I mean, this is for his audience for
Right.
sure.
It's for a lot of audiences.
It is, but I mean, his, followers are
And
very,
getting him to grasp it enough to want me on the show
Oh, he would, I think.
is
I
the
mean,
hard
I don't know him
part.
personally, but I feel like he would.
Okay, but again, I don't know him, but that's what this is about. Because if he figured out what this is about, he would have me there in a New York second.
Oh, heck yeah. And I mean, and that's why that audience of his, like to get in front of he's got such a huge audience and
Ah,
it would be phenomenal for that. And I just thank you. I want to thank you for your time and explaining this. I know you've had years to practice explaining this, but to somebody like myself who isn't a mathematician or a scientist who can really understand it. And I'm blown away. I can't wait to read the entire book. And and thank you for giving this gift to the world with writing this. And I will include all your information in the show notes, of course, of how people can get in touch with you and get your book and just even just listen to that 15-minute excerpt because right there that'll sell them on it. And
people who are looking for this, it will sell them.
I don't think people probably don't even know they're looking for it, and they will now.
Well, they can be looking for it without knowing they're looking for it.
Exactly, exactly.
And that's true in many fields of learning.
Yes,
As I said, I didn't know I was looking for this. Even after I got the idea of Septemics and I was working on the book, I still didn't really see.
yeah.
Eventually, I realized that this is what I started out to do when I was a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I just didn't know because it was beyond my ken. I hadn't figured it out yet. I hadn't
Yeah.
unraveled it yet. So um,
Well, thank you for figuring it out
you're welcome.
and being you and you know, being just so like open to explain this and offer this to the world because as there's always difficult times, but we need it more than ever now. And just at the very least, just to understand you yourself, at the
Yes,
very minimum.
yes,
But it gives you so much more than that. Like you could pretty much understand every single person in your life.
yes. That's very true.
Yeah,
I can guarantee you, if you do a 35 scale septemic analysis correctly of anyone, you will understand that person better than he understands himself.
yeah, yeah, I believe it. I believe
Because
it.
this is natural law. Now, there are people, very, very smart people, bright people, who will gravitate toward this and go and get, just fall in love with it quickly. And then there are other people who will have, it will be a little more work for them. But
Yeah.
I want to say one thing in closing, which is that the data in this book are vital
Yes.
for every person.
Yes.
It can help you to achieve your goals faster and easier
Mm-hmm.
by explaining what might otherwise seem to be inexplicable or random.
Mm,
So you have this guy, right? He has this relationship, it breaks up, it's a train wreck. He has no idea what the hell went on. 10 years later, he's still saying, what happened between me and Grace? You know, you ever talk to people and see those things?
yeah.
If he were to get this book and analyze her, because for him to have this big a deal, he must know a lot about her.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes in his memory, you know, where was she on the scale of choice? Oh, I see. That explains why she did X. Eventually, he'll figure the whole thing out and he'll stop thinking about it
Mm-hmm.
because he's thinking about it because he hasn't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand it.
Right.
It's stuck to him,
Mm-hmm.
and this will dissolve it. So, the subtitle of this is Analysis, Prediction, and Management of Human Affairs. So, analysis comes from the Greek word for loosen.
Mm-hmm.
When you analyze something, you're loosening. In other words, you're dissolving it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you can loosen it, then you can predict the person. You know what that person is going to say and not say. Honest to God, I'm not kidding you. On a daily basis, I know what Donald Trump is going to say before he says it. I say, oh, the next word is going to be, blah, and it is. I know what he's going to do before he does it because there's so much data about him.
Yes.
Not only have I been aware of him for 50 years,
Right.
is there ever a day when he's not on video or TV or news,
Right.
right? And this is a guy who just continually gives interviews.
Mm-hmm.
No, he is telling you where he is on these scales.
Mm-hmm.
This is not hard to get.
Right.
So I really understand the guy. And him
Mm-hmm.
telling you to vote for him or not vote for him, that's none of my business.
That has nothing to do with what you're, yeah.
But I understand him.
Mm-hmm.
And this has really helped me in my life because this subject undercuts depression and anxiety for very specific technical reasons. If you use this, lots of depression will just go away.
Wow.
And a lot of anxiety will just go away. Because when you understand things correctly,
Yeah.
you don't get depressed and anxious.
Mm-hmm.
There's anxiety because you don't understand. And I'll
Right.
give you an example. Guy's being audited by the IRS, right? Boy, has he got anxiety, right? How many things does he not know? He doesn't know what they're going to ask him. He doesn't know what receipts they're going to accept. He doesn't know if they know about this gold that he has stored.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of things he doesn't know, right? And so he's anxious. You know, ever watch the difference between an innocent person and a guilty person being examined? I've been examined in courts of law. I bring lawsuits against people for cheating me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm the number one guy that's going to testify, right? He did this and he
Mm-hmm.
did, right? It's very easy. There's no stress, no anxiety. I just get up there and then they try to cross-examine me, and I say, yeah, that's right. No, there's no stress. You know why? There's nothing I don't understand about this. Nothing's
Mm-hmm.
hidden. Okay. It's in the law, they expect you to come to the court with clean hands.
Right.
So I do. I go to the court with clean hands. I say, I did nothing wrong. I did this. I did this. He didn't deliver, blah, blah, blah. It's very easy. There's no
Mm-hmm.
stress. If a guy, I have watched this. I have watched cops, cops go on the stand, and they were like ready to have a heart attack.
Right.
So it's obvious that they're keeping secrets, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, same thing with depression. You talk to a depressed person, boy, does he not know what's going on. You say, guys, why are you depressed? Well, I broke up with my girlfriend on my heart. Okay, well, what seems to be the problem? I don't know. That's why he's depressed.
Right. Because you don't know.
So
Knowledge is power.
get him to analyze that girlfriend on all 35 scales.
Yeah.
And by the time he finishes, he won't even think about her again.
Mm-hmm.
Or if he does, there will not be with any depression.
Right.
He'll just say, "Oh, hello, Julie. How you been? Nice to see you."
This is so great that you're talking about this to close off because, obviously my podcast is about trauma and everybody with trauma has stress,
That's right.
anxiety, depression at some point, you
That's right.
know? So I'm so glad that you're closing off with that because I think it could be so beneficial for people.
That was my career.
That was your, yeah,
Guy comes into me and he's got an unwanted condition or a problem or something, right?
yeah,
There's always a trauma underneath that.
yeah,
He might not remember it. See,
right.
he's having trouble with his girlfriend. He doesn't recall the thing that happened with his mother when he was 4 years old.
Yeah,
but you work with him and you take him back, and now now he found the trauma under the thing, right? And
Yeah.
you get him to delete it from his mind. Gone. Now all the subsequent stuff, we're just sitting on top of that.
Hmm.
So I was essentially dismantling the trauma of the client underneath whatever was bothering him.
Right.
That's what I was doing. And that manifestation in the person by me writing it down for 40 years is what led to this.
Yeah.
So this goes right undercutting trauma. Now,
That's
I'm
incredible.
not saying that if you're not a human development engineer, you will always have the skill to zip right into it. But many, many times, most of the time, you'll get to it. Your
That's
girlfriend's
awesome.
having a lot of trouble. Tell me about it. You find out,
Hmm.
you say, look at this. Where are you on it? Oh, yeah, I'm on this, you know. And then, well, what about your boyfriend? Oh, yeah, he's at this. No, we're having trouble. See? And
Yeah.
little by little, the trauma will go away. And
Yeah.
she might say, I really love this guy. I think I want, or she might say, this guy's a nutcase. I'm getting away from him.
Hmm.
That's none of our business. See,
Right.
up to her.
Yeah.
Important point is we got to the bottom of it.
Hmm.
And that's what I'm helping people to do.
Yeah.
All of your clients and friends and relatives and loved ones, help them get to the bottom
Yeah.
in these 35 areas. And these areas of depression and anxiety will evanesce.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love to hear that. And I think that it's going to resonate really well with my listeners specifically. So thank you so much. I know I want to be respectful of your time, and I know we've gone way over, but I could talk to you about this for probably hours. But thank you, Jim. And again, I'll put all this in the show notes. Everybody will know how to get in touch with you. Um, I will let you know when it's gonna, after I'm done editing it, if I need any more information from you, and I'll let you know when it's gonna go live, and I'll send you all the links and everything, so you'll have them, and even the short clips of it. And then I'll be in touch with you. It'll probably be about a month before it airs.
Okay, that's fine.
But this is, and then plus it'll give me time to dig deeper into your book too. So,
Okay. Well, it
but thanks
was a pleasure talking to you.
thank you so much, and have an amazing rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Now I want to tell you something now that we've finished the
Hold
production.
on, let me turn off the recording.